Hello.
Hi. Um, how are you today?
Good. Sorry for being a little late.
Nope, no worries. We're still waiting on a couple people. If they don't show up, you can feel free to start whenever you want.
Okay.
Okay, so I think today's meeting is just gonna be like if you could introduce yourself and then be prepared some questions to ask you, and then if anyone else wants to ask you questions, we can leave the floor open for that.
Sure. Do you want me to get started?
Yeah. Yes, please. Thank you.
Sure. It's good to be with everybody. My name is Gopal. I am a state senator representing Monmouth County. Proud to be the first South Asian American and first legislator of Hindu faith to be elected here in New Jersey. Also proud to be the first legislator to take the oath of office on the Gita. I am a lifelong resident of Monmouth County. I was first elected in 2017 and reelected in 2021 and 2023. I serve as chairman of the Senate Education Committee and as a member of the Senate Judiciary Committee, as well as the Senate Majority Whip in the Senate leadership. I also work as a small business owner, training a lot of different small businesses and medium-sized companies on growth and business development and human resources. I previously have volunteered for a lot of different local nonprofits and organizations, volunteered as an EMT, as well as spent a few years teaching as an adjunct professor at Monmouth University. So happy to be with everybody. I think my policy director, Mike, is also on. So if there's specific legislation questions, Mike will be able to help. And I'm happy to talk about whatever you guys want to talk about.
So our programs director, Achtan, prepared a couple questions to ask you, and feel free, Achtan, to ask your questions.
Yeah, hi, my name is Achutan, and as Vika said, I'm the programs director for the Hindu Caucus, and I'm from Mercer County. So, so to start off, if you could have dinner, oh wait, Anvika.
Yeah.
Oh wait, did you say something in the chat?
Oh, no, never mind.
Never mind. Sorry. If so, our first question is: if you could have dinner with any political figure, living or dead, who would it be and why?
It's a great question. I would probably say Barack Obama. He was one of my favorite presidents, definitely my favorite president of my lifetime. I thought he at the time in 2008 when he was elected was really transformational. I think he really exemplified civility and decency and family values and really brought out the best in people. So he's somebody that I've never met that, would be amazing. I think more than any other president in my lifetime, he's probably the one that I admire the most.
Thank you. So our second question is, as one of the most prominent South Asian elected officials in New Jersey, what challenges did you face when you entered politics, and how can other South Asians or Hindu Americans break through similar barriers?
I definitely think similar to any group, um, whether you're black or you're Asian or South Asian, East Asian, or you're Latino, or you're a woman or you're LGBTQIA plus, no matter what you are, you have unique challenges being a part of a minority group, but also trying to represent a population that is way larger than your minority. In my legislative district, We only have a few hundred South Asian families. The Indian American population is probably 1 or 2%. The district is predominantly Caucasian white. It's about 75% white. So it's a challenge in trying to understand and appreciate your own culture and your own heritage, but at the same time making sure that you respect everybody. So I spend a lot of time going to. Sorry, my daughter's calling me. Give me 1 second. I apologize.
Sure, no problem.
Meanwhile, if anyone has any other questions, you can feel free to put it in the chat and then we can get to it later.
Sorry about that. So I go to church, I go to synagogues, I go to mosques, I go everywhere. I try to understand and appreciate every aspect of my constituency. I try to understand their worldviews. Um, as someone who grew up in a Hindu vegetarian household, my worldview is very different than the person who went hunting with their grandparents in Pennsylvania every week. So while I don't go hunting with them, I do go shooting with my constituents because I try to understand why the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, and gun rights are very important to a certain person. And I don't always agree, but I try to at least understand where they're coming from. So I think that helps. I'm also in a district that's predominantly Republican, and I'm a Democrat. The district is a district that Republicans, like for example, Jack Ciattarelli comfortably won at the last district. So I'm the first Democratic senator here in about 30 years. So it's a very red district. So that I think it's a lot of different challenges, not just demographically, but politically. But absolutely, people will try that. I've gone by Vin, most of my adult life. But my legal name, which is still on my license, is Vinod. It's the name I was born as. And in the last election, my opponent put flyers everywhere saying, Vinod Gopal did this. Vinod, even though no one has called me that in 25 years just to try to see if he can bring out the worst in people, thinking that I'm different and in a district that's predominantly Republican, that it would move people the other way. There's always challenges, and I think every minority group is going to have a different challenge, and South Asians will have their own dependent if and when they decide where to run for office, if it's a community that's heavily populated or not. But I go back to the example of Barack Obama. I mean, his name was Barack Hussein Obama. In 2008, many of you were very, very young. If you were born at that time, I'm sure you were, but you're very young. It was unheard of that someone named Barack Hussein Obama, 7 years after September 11th, would be the first black president. It really was a transformational time. So I think anything is possible. I think we're at the other end of the spectrum right now, where the pendulum is really swung. I think for a variety of reasons, but it's swung the other way. So um, I think people generally, genuinely are good at heart, and education is how you eliminate implicit biases and how you remove stigmas is through education.
Yeah, thank you for that. So now moving on to more of a general question. So like a lot of young people want to create change, but they struggle with political gatekeeping. So like what advice do you have for students who want to mobilize their communities and actually be heard by policymakers?
So I think generally now some good things have happened in the last few years. One is there's the end of the political party lines, which existed in New Jersey for a long time. It was a ballot structure process. Now the courts have really shot that down, which will help in allowing anyone to run for office. It's going to create more fair ballots. But I also think there needs to be, I remember my first election I ran in. I was in my 20s. And I got absolutely slaughtered because I was so passionate about the issues. I got motivated by politics again during a time period where many of you were very young, was during the war in Iraq. And I was very opposed to the war in Iraq. I'd go to all the anti-war protests, and it really motivated me to get involved in politics. But I didn't understand political communication. At the time, we actually had newspapers and we had media. It wasn't it's 2011. Social media was just starting, but it wasn't really a presence in the way it is now as far as pushing information, both accurate and misinformation. But back then, it was newspapers. It was some social media. It was communication. And I was so passionate about the policies and I'd research it, but it was not always what gets you elected. It's not what moves public policy. I'll tell you, as a politician, right? If you're a politician, you naturally have an ego. I have a large ego because I'm a politician. Any politician that tells you they don't have an ego is lying to you. So you generally think you can do something better. So if I'm here and I know that you have human interest in knowing that elections is how you get in. If somebody calls me who lives in my district, in my 19 towns, 220,000 constituents in Monmouth County, I'm going to call them back. If somebody lives outside of my district, if they live in Hudson County or Middlesex County, I'm not calling them back because there's almost only so much time in the day. I'm a part-time state senator. There's only so much time in the day. You redirect them back to their senator. So I think it's understanding the landscape of who you're trying to influence how. Um, Focusing on the people that, if you asked me if I could spend 30 minutes with any school board president or mayor or a president of the United States, I'm going to pick the school board president or the mayor because there I might be able to influence how they're going to pick the next superintendent of schools or how that mayor is going to pick the next police chief. And I might even be able to exchange phone numbers and follow up. Whereas that's great. You get 30 minutes with a president. What does that do? You get a photo, you post it, and there's no follow up, and nothing's ever going to come from it from a public policy standpoint. So I think the most important thing is understanding how important local government is, local board of educations, local mayor and councils, and how to mobilize and show people. It's all math. You get 20 friends and they all vote, and you guys write a letter together. A local mayor or school board member is going to pay attention to that pretty quickly. If you send it to somebody who's not in your town, you don't live there, they're not going to pay attention.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I completely agree with that. Like, I think that a lot of people sort of like undervalue like the importance of local elections and like don't really pay attention to what's going on in their community. So yeah, I agree with you. And so moving on to our next question. So New Jersey has recently seen a pretty concerning shift towards the right since a lot of counties flipped Republican in the last election. So why do you think this happened, and how do you think Democrats can improve in the next election?
I think Democrats have a messaging problem in talking to the issues that matter to the most amount of people, right? Most families are concerned about affordability. They're concerned about housing and healthcare, affordable housing. Um, they're concerned about, their healthcare costs, food costs, electric costs, and cost of college. And I think Democrats have struggled on communicating on those issues, and the Republicans have done a good job of branding Democrats about talking about issues that do not affect 99% of people. There are important issues that affect minority groups. The Republicans have done a very good job of taking the DEI program and communicating that that's something that is affirmative action on steroids. And if you're a working class white voter, it hurts you, which we know is not true based on data as well as how it affects the disability community and so many others. But they've done such a good job on that. And I think when you're frustrated and life's not going and change is happening and cost of living's higher, you look for someone to blame. And I think that is what has happened. And we've seen that throughout history. That's happened. I think Democrats also don't communicate with people. Look, I tell you, people, if I watched a couple incidences, and these are and keep in mind I'm in a very Republican district, but I watched an interaction between two people, one who is a very progressive Democrat and someone who's also a Democrat, and the person called them by the wrong pronoun. And instead of educating and explaining them why they want to be called by that pronoun, they basically attacked them and made them feel really stupid and kind of said that you're anti, LGBTQ plus. And I think the approach has to be one of education. If somebody doesn't agree with you, it doesn't mean that they're a racist or they're a sexist or they're homophobic. They may very well be, but to immediately put that assumption, every single human being has an implicit bias. And I talk about I have family members um, who I love more than anything, but they had a bias towards Muslims when I was young. They would say things to me. We were Hindu, they were Muslim, they were from India. They would say things that were pretty offensive. Should I write those family members off, say I'm never going to have anything to do with them? They're horrible people, they're this, or is this how they were born and brought up? And is this a worldview that through education you can change that? I think that's the Democrats' overall challenge that they have failed on. That people feel, at least the folks I talk to in my district, the Democrats talk down to them. And if they're not ready for something, that instead of saying that, you're racist or sexist, work on the education piece. If somebody's not ready to go 100% electric, or they don't want to give up their gas stove, or they don't like, work the education piece, right? It's easy to latch on, even though there's no evidence that offshore wind kills the whales and dolphins. It's easy to latch on to that because that's a big, big change. You're going to now see windmills off the shore, and what does this mean? Like, there was no education there. There was no from the environmental groups. They didn't educate. They didn't do community groups. They didn't do events. They didn't do rallies. So the Republicans have done such a good job of messaging and saying the Democrats are trying to change your way of life. They're trying to change everything you want. They have gone too extreme. They'll find an issue and say they're attacking police officers and they're attacking, and the reality is the opposite is the truth. Democrats have funded police pensions and supported law enforcement, um, but they latch onto these issues, and I think it's now gotten to such, and the challenge is the Trump folks, Trump supporters. He's got a core group of supporters that he can do no wrong. It is a cult, and they will follow him no matter what he says. The fact that they don't stand up when he acceptingly pardons violent folks on January 6th and they're okay with that, or they look the other way, that is cult-like. So I'm not even talking about that 30-40% of people that's locked in, but there's a whole group of people in the middle that are gettable, which the Democrats need to work on. Every group increased for Trump. It wasn't just white voters. It wasn't just women. It was black voters. It was gay voters. It was Asian voters. It was Latino voters. They all increased in percentages from 2020 to 2024. And that in itself should be a wake-up call for Democrats that they're not focused on the issues that they should be.
Thank you. So, and then my next question is, a lot of young progressives want to run for office, but they don't know where to start. So, what do you think is the most important first step for someone in high school or college who wants to enter politics?
I think internships and volunteering, reach out to your local state legislator, your local mayor, your local congressional person, go to meetings, go to events, find other like-minded persons. If you're a progressive, join the local Democratic club. If you're a Republican, join the local Republican club. Try to just start getting involved. That's what I did, and did as many internships as possible and just try to meet and build relationships.
Thank you. So, it was nice talking to you, and I'll pass it on to Ashva now for his questions.
Yeah, so we have one more question left before we open it up to audience Q&A. So the last question we had for you was if you weren't in politics, what would you be doing right now?
Great question. I don't know. I don't really know the answer to that. I did like academic. I did love teaching and while I did it, I don't know if I could have done that every day though. Um, Probably more business related stuff. Started more small businesses. I always enjoyed the aspect of business. Um, I'm not really sure, but I'm now at the point I'm 39 and I've been doing this since I was 14. So I'm I don't know what else to do at this point. I don't know if I have any other useful skills to get another job. So it's a
Yeah,
hard
well, I
getting,
think
hard to get a liberal arts major. You get a liberal arts degree when you go to college. It's not a lot of options. Go get like a Spanish degree or science or biology or a useful skill.
yeah, that's true. Okay, and I think Annika had a few questions in the chat. So she asked, one, why do you think Kamala Harris had major losses in the past election?
Now, I don't know if she had major losses. If you look at the popular vote, Trump had 77 million. She had 75 million. She lost 49 to 48. Um, I think it was stunning that a Republican won the popular vote. I didn't think that was ever going to be possible again, just because of the population changes in California and other places. I think that a lot of the swing states that she lost were close margins. Pennsylvania, Michigan, she lost them, but she's not getting blown out there. She's losing them 50-49. A couple 100,000 votes, it could have gone the other way. So I don't think there's any type of mandate or loss. I think the economy was very bad. I think that the Democrats anointing her and not having a convention was bad. I think that Biden not dropping out earlier, much earlier than the debate, was bad. I think that folks were generally not happy with the cost of living and they were looking for a change, and they're frustrated by illegal immigration or whatever other issues are on their mind, and this was an opportunity to change gears. I think it was a lost opportunity for the Democrats. And I think when you accuse the other side of saying, you're election deniers, you're denying election, you don't think it's right, but then you don't even have a legitimate primary process where you allow candidates to run against each other and compete, and instead you have a bunch of elites in the back with Pelosi and Schumer and all these people. They just get together and they pick Harris as the candidate. That's not very democratic. So I think there's a combination of things that ended up being a perfect storm, where the Democrats really could not have done a worse job. And I think Biden dropped out at the most inopportune time. If he did it a year earlier, there could have been a nice, clean, healthy primary. She also had 4 years where she really wasn't put out there a lot. So she wasn't branded well. I didn't really, and I follow politics closely. I didn't know too much of her at college. I always liked her. She was a skilled attorney general, skilled senator. I thought she was a good vice presidential pick, but she didn't have a big profile, right? So she wasn't, there's nothing there. And so I don't think there was anything really, really compelling to vote. If you're not happy with the way things are going, usually you blame the establishment, and that's who the establishment was.
Yeah, thank you for the response. And her next question was, what is the most concerning thing you think the Trump administration has done so far?
There's a lot they're doing. I think the pardons to start, when you pardon violent officials, people that beat up and killed police officers, and that precedent that sets at that moment, I think is horrific. I think how troubling is that the U.S. Senate just goes along with every one of these commissioners and secretaries. Some of these secretaries are very, very concerning. And so I'm obviously concerned on all. I think at the rate they're going, they could have a trouble, and the Republicans will have trouble in 2026. But um, a lot of the cuts that could affect mental health, special education, the disability community, I think could be pretty could be pretty devastating. So I think it's just his general approach of he does not believe that the law applies to him. And when you attack the press and when you attack judges and when you attack everything that is in a free democratic society, that those are signs of authoritarianism, and I don't think it's good, and I don't think his supporters all believe or support that. But unfortunately, supporters, I feel like, turn the other way too many times.
Thank you. And the last question from Annika was, I think I already covered this, but what is the most important thing you think we can be doing in terms of organizing?
Yeah, I think just educating fellow people. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of the 30-person rallies or talking to the same 29 people that are all like-minded. I think it's taking the person who is maybe not overly political, maybe they are political, but trying to educate them, trying to make them aware, trying to understand that those that may not be like you, how they can. So um, I think all of those would be good.
Okay, thank you. And we had a question from Sonia. She asked, as a South Asian American in politics, how has your heritage influenced your approach to public service?
I think like most South Asians, every culture is different, but we're very, very obviously oriented, focused on education and family, and I think those interests have always left me uh, very intrigued. Being part of a minority community gives you, I think, more understanding of what other minority communities are going through also. So I think all of that has been positive.
Okay, thank you. And Anvika had two questions. So her first question was, how can high school students effectively advocate for issues they care about at the state level?
I think contacting your state legislators, building relationships with them, I think are all good and positive. I mean, if you reach out to your state assembly person or state senator, they should be reaching out to you or at least making sure staff talks to you or taking time and building that relationship. If not, you should absolutely be voting against them.
Yeah, I agree. And her second question was, what are some common misconceptions about state government and how it operates?
One is that the state senate's part-time. We're not full-time, nor is the state assembly. So every legislator has a other full-time job. Some are lawyers, some are doctors, some are professors. So that is one challenge. It's the New Jersey Constitution creates that. It's a little different than other states. Government was created in a way where things happen slowly, and I think there's good and bad in that, right? Sometimes you want positive change to happen quick, but if you don't have it slowly, you can have really bad things that happen. I think that was one of the founding documents of our founders 249 years ago for the U.S. Constitution was, to try to create that. And sometimes you get gridlock, right? If I have to get a law passed, I got to get it out of committee in the assembly, get the Senate to pass it, get the assembly to pass it, and then get the governor to sign it and not veto it. That's a process. And it's a process that I don't think it's bad. I just think it takes a lot of time. Relationship building is important, right? Personalities are different. I spend a lot of time building relationships with my Senate colleagues to know what they're interested in, what they're not. I think the legislator that usually gets elected and they just make a bunch of noise, they might move an issue along the right way, but are they actually getting anything done? I think it depends. A legislator like AOC at the federal level, I think she's effective because she has a branding, a movement, a fundraising network. She's effective. But some of the others that are just, loud and they get up, they rally, they make a speech, they try to get on a show for 10 minutes, are they really moving the ball forward? This happened during 2012 was the last time, 2011, when President Obama was trying to pass a health care for all, and there was a group of Democrats that wanted Medicare for all, and everybody wanted Medicare for all, but the votes were not there. It was not realistic. He could not get people in some swing districts. The misconceptions were inaccurate. They were unable to combat the health insurance companies, enormous money they were putting in. And he settled for what was Obamacare. And it did some really good things on pre-existing conditions and keeping people on 25. Was it perfect? No. Was it great? I don't know if it was great. I think it was good. I think it's better than what we had. It did a lot of good things. But you had a bunch of Democrats who voted against it because it wasn't the perfect. It wasn't what they wanted, and almost failed as a result of that. So I think progress gets made by collaboration and consensus building.
Yeah, thank you for the reply. And we have another question from Josh. He said that he testified on one of your sponsored bills, which is really cool. And his question was, with new leadership from Ken Martin and David Hogg, has a national strategy for Democrats already been developed for the midterms?
Thank you, Josh. I don't know. I'm not really in the weeds on the federal or national DNC or what they are or not doing. I'm hopeful. I can tell you, it can't get any worse, right? It's a low bar, so I hope they're developing some kind of strategy. I mean, so far it wasn't a great start. I mean, Trump pardons the people, the violent offenders, and Schumer comes out like 10 days later to make a statement. So whatever their communications up to this date have not been very effective. I think some of these guys just got to move on. I appreciated Pelosi at least stepping aside, letting Hakeem Jeffries, letting some of the younger folks. I think I don't know what it is. Um, and now you have what's his name, who's voting against everything they're doing, Mitch McConnell, but he literally caused every one of these problems we have. He blocked Obama from getting Supreme Court justice. He created Trump, and now he can have all the regrets he want. But he was responsible for everything bad that happened. So, but these guys are all like 87, 88, and they're just sticking around. So I think that's frustrating.
Yeah, thank you for the answer. And Anvika has another question. She asked, what role do you see student activism playing in shaping public policy?
I think it already does a lot. I've had a lot of bills that have come from student activists. I know Josh was referring to the financial literacy bill. There's a lot of other bills that we've focused on that have come from student impact. A lot of legislation I get laws come from people that reach out to our office and they say, "Oh, I have this rare disease, or I have this, I got this," and we try to figure out something for that. So I think students can continue to play an active role just by being involved and engaged. And I would start as locally as possible. Um, the federal stuff is I'm sure it's fun to watch, and I really don't watch it. I don't watch CNN, I don't watch Fox, I don't watch MSNBC. I haven't watched any of them for. I watched on election night just because they're the only ones with the ticker, so you can see where the results are. But I haven't watched them in years because they're just doesn't make my life better by watching them. So I would encourage everyone to be engaged locally and reach out to folks.
Okay, since we're running low on time, if no one else has questions, we have one more question from someone in our caucus. And the last question that they asked is, what are your thoughts on House Democrats sort of condemning the more left-wing factions of the Democratic Party in a House meeting a few weeks ago? And do you think that like what do you think is the strategy for uniting the left in our country?
Yeah, I didn't see that again. Maybe I got to do a better job reading just national news, but I didn't even know that. We'll look that up, Mike, later. Um, but I think there are broad issues. It's the challenge with. I have folks on the left that have protested my office. I had a group of people that would protest my office every week a couple years ago because I wouldn't support a reparations bill. And I think the challenge in a lot of this is you're never going to get someone who's 100% with you. And you got to figure out how to talk about issues that are going to unify the most amount of people. And there are issues that Democrats can unify when it comes to affordability, when it comes to healthcare and housing and social security and safety nets and college affordability. I think there are areas that they should be creating really good policies and working on, but that ends up doesn't they don't end up talking about that. And I think someone who I think has been really great um, and effective is Sarah McBride from Delaware, transgender member of Congress, because they have tried to get her into so many traps, and she doesn't fall for those traps. She doesn't run away from who she is, but she understands how to. This is about winning. If you don't win, nothing else matters, right? So you can have all the great policies, you can push for all the great stuff, but this is at the end of the day, this is about winning. Otherwise, you don't even have a shot at getting your policies. And I've watched her communicate with the right as they've tried to screw with her on the bathrooms and everything else, and and she is masterful in how she combats back. So I think it's about having that unified message and being inclusive, embracing diversity, embracing these things, but at the same time, doing it in a way where you respect everyone's struggles, everyone's challenges, and appreciating, and understanding history, right? If you don't understand the history of a state or the county or a community it makes it hard. And I think those are some of the challenges. I've had the challenges with the left of really, as I've debated, not debated, but I've had some protesters on Israel, Hamas, and they've said things to me that are absolutely anti-Semitic, right? And I know their heart is in the right place because they're concerned about what is happening in Palestine and innocent folks dying, but there is an element of anti-Semitism that has existed in this world for a while, where a lot of people and I think then the other side, it's just there's nothing in the middle. Everyone kind of goes to their areas without trying to find the empathy all the way around. And I think that is the overwhelming challenge.
Okay, thank you so much. I don't think I see any more questions in the chat or Caucus Slack. Yeah, very well said. I think that if you have like any opportunities in terms of like especially for New Jersey, because a lot of our members are from there, like do you have any like internships from your office or
Yeah.
know of
Yeah,
any
reach out. Mike.
senators?
Mike, are you still here?
Yep, I will put my email in the chat and all of
Put
you guys
Mike's
can send them to me.
email. If you live far away from us, we're happy to connect you with your own state senator or state assembly person. We will be absolutely happy to help in any way you guys need us to help.
Oh yeah, that's great. I'm in Chicago, so I probably can't intern in
Oh,
person or
Chicago
anything.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'll definitely forward that email into our caucus group chat. And
Cool.
also we'll be posting the recording of this meeting for like our West Coast people who couldn't join. But yeah, thank you so much for attending. It's been a great privilege like seeing you talk, especially as a fellow Hindu American and someone who like represents our values. So thank you so much.
Awesome. Yeah, reach out to me if I can be helpful. Follow us on social media and reach out to Mike if you guys ever want to talk further about any issue.
Okay, thank you so much. Bye guys.
All right. Have a great day.
Thanks
Bye-bye.
for having us, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.